third judge in the pre-trial chamber dissented. He found that
the trial chamber had allowed the prosecution to include 2 new witnesses on its list of witnesses, but Ruto's defense appealed the decision. The chamber, after deliberating on the arguments by the defense, ruled that the prosecution's request was valid. It further ruled that addition of the 2 new witnesses would not affect negatively preparations for the case as argued by the defense. At the same time, Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai has now filed an application to the trial chamber seeking permission to give the government's views in relation to the concern raised by the court regarding the possible impact of Kenya's parliament resolutions to pull Kenya from the Rome Statute. He wants to address the relevant factual matters related to the motions and the domestic law of Kenya on the ratification and termination of treaties. Both the National Assembly and the Senate passed motions seeking to have Kenya withdraw from the statute that established the International Criminal Court. This matter was discussed by parties to the case last week following an application made by the prosecution for the chamber to discuss the possible impact of the resolutions on the safety of witnesses and victims in the case.
Deputy Prosecutor.
The prosecution argued that it was concerned about the chilling effect of the resolutions on witnesses and not the legal effect.
President and Your Honors.
The defense and Deputy President William Ruto sought to defend the government of Kenya against accusations that it was not cooperating with the court. Attorney General wants to be allowed to give his submission on the matter on behalf of the government of Kenya as a friend of the court. Still from ICC, the appeals chamber has rejected Nigeria and Ethiopia's request to be enjoined in the appeal by the prosecution on whether Ruto should be excused from being continuously physically present at the trial. The chamber said their views were a duplication of observations already filed by 5 other African nations, namely Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Eritrea, and Uganda, and allowing their observations would delay decision-making on the appeal.
It is to be noted in that regard that
on June 18th this year, the trial chamber hearing the case against Deputy President William Ruto and radio presenter Joshua Arap Sang issued a decision excusing Ruto from being continuously physically present at trial except on specified hearings. However, the prosecutor appealed this decision and the appeals chamber gave the prosecutor's request a suspensive effect until a final decision on this appeal is made, meaning Ruto had now to attend all the proceedings in the meantime. The argument by the African states that have been enjoined in the appeal is that there must be a balance between the interests of international justice and the interests of a state and its citizens who should enjoy the services of an effective elected national government. They argue that while the cases are going on in The Hague, the president and his deputy should be able to perform their duties. Meanwhile, the status conference in the Ruto Sang case that is scheduled for this Friday will decide whether the trial should proceed on Monday in the absence of the deputy president. Janet.